reason that it's providing peace, the reason it provides peace, the reason it's the source of happiness and well-being is because the you that you learned that you are, the you that we all learned that we are, right? Through socialization, right? You got a name, you learned that you were your body. The you that you learned that you are has always changed. It's never been stable. And even if you consider that to be really who you are, and I ask you who you are, how are you going to answer the question? You're going to tell me who you are now, or who you were yesterday, who you were when you were 10 years old? How about when you were 20? Hasn't it always changed? Isn't it always changing? And so how can you answer the question? You don't consider yourself the same person you were even 5 years ago. Definitely not 10 years ago. And yet, while all that's happened and all that's changed, there's something that has never changed. If you really stop and consider it, is it not the case that the awareness that you are is exactly the same as it was when you were 5 years old? Exactly the same as it was when you were 15, 20, 25, 30, yesterday. Same awareness. The thoughts that go through your mind never stop changing. The sensations in your body never stop changing. Your behavior never stops changing. The world never stops changing. Your feelings never stop changing. This is the instability, right? And the source of suffering is when you consider yourself to be that person or personality that's constantly changing in a world that's constantly changing, in a world that you have no control over, in a body that you have no control over, thoughts that you have no control over, feelings you have no control over. That's the honest truth about what the experience is of being a human being. No wonder people are anxious. No wonder. No wonder people are depressed. No wonder people are suffering. How can you be happy? How can you have any consistency? How can you have any peace with all the things that are constantly changing? And not only is that the case, and not only do you not have any control over any of it, right? But it's the way it's going in time, right? It's heading toward the cliff. It's heading to an end. This is the human experience, that you're born and you die. And in between then, you do your best to try and be happy. You do your best to try and feel secure. You do your best to try and be in control. And you fail. Because it's not possible. It's not possible. So this is the realization that is possible for us to have. And when we have this realization, then there's one question to be asked and answered. And that question is there a possibility for happiness? Is there a possibility for security? Is there a possibility for stability? And if the answer is no, and for many people it's no, right? Because the only place they look for the answer is in their own mind, in their own thoughts, or in the world somewhere, or in some book, right? If the answer is no, then many people end up committing suicide, don't they? Because, and especially people who've gotten it all, right? Don't you wonder when you look at some of these famous people, some of these wealthy people that commit suicide? Doesn't it never become a question that you have, like, why would somebody that has it all commit suicide? A movie star, a beautiful person, Marilyn Monroe, you know, Robin Williams, these people who we admire, who are famous, who have all the money, who have everything that you think if you had what they had, you'd be happy, and yet they commit suicide. And I say the reason is, and I hope that you don't hold out to find out for yourself, because a lot of people say, well, everything you're saying may be true about money not being the source of real happiness, but I want to find out. Right? Isn't that what people say? Money can't make you happy, but I want to find out. Well, the people who found out, what they found out was the truth. You can be miserable and have a lot of money. You can be miserable and have a new car. You can move somewhere else in the world that you thought would be a place where you'd be happy and discover you're miserable there. You can get a new wife and discover you're miserable with the new wife. Everything that you thought would make you happy turns into another thing that didn't work to make you happy and is in fact a problem. And so people that win the lottery, which by the way are the highest suicide rate now, they win the lottery and they think, well, if I win the lottery, then I'll have it made. I can be happy. I'll have security. I can have anything that I want, right? And the next morning they wake up and they're terrified because now they have all this money to lose. Now they have something to really be scared about, right? Losing this money, because if I thought this money would make me happy and now I have it, now I have to protect it. Now I have to get more. Don't you understand why people who are billionaires want more money? That's insane. You know how much money $1 billion is? It's like ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You'd have to like work hard to spend that kind of money, right? And yet those people are trying to make more and more and more, right? Why? Because it didn't get the job done, because they don't feel secure. And now they're terrified of losing the money. That's why when the stock market crashed in the Great Depression, people just jumped out the window, right? Because if I thought what I was worth is how much money I have, and I lose the money, I have no worth. Isn't it interesting the language that people use? They say, I am worth $8 billion. I am worth. All right, so if you lose the $8 billion, what are you worth then? Right? And how can you stand continuing to live without that money? The meek shall inherit the earth. You know, if you can get this, you don't have to get all that money to find out it doesn't work. All you have to do is notice what you have doesn't work. Right? Right? Isn't it true? When you were younger, you thought, if I get my first new car, I'll be happy. How'd that turn out? You thought, well, when I fall in love, I'll be happy. How'd that turn out? When I get married, I'll be happy. How'd that turn out? When I get divorced, I'll be happy. How'd that turn out? How much of this do you have to go through before you get it? You understand? Right? And the good news is that when you do look and see the reality of it, of what the reality of it is for humanity and for all of us, and if you're fortunate enough to have come across this teaching and this practice, then you can ask the question, is there anything possible? Is happiness possible at all in this life? Or is this just futile? And the answer to the question is yes, happiness is possible. And for whatever reason, you've had the good fortune or the blessing to come across the possibility and be exposed to the invitation to actually be happy. And the thing about it that is most unusual, the thing that's most surprising about this possibility for happiness is it exists right now. It exists right now. You don't have to do anything to get it. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to wait for it. It exists right now. And the happiness that exists right now is the experience of who you are. And the reason that you haven't been happy is because you haven't been having an experience of who you are. You've been having an experience of who they said you are, right? You've been having an experience of who you learned that you are, which is called a person or a personality, right? So you learned when you were a little kid that you were a person. You learned that you were a person. You learned that you had to control your emotions. You learned that you had to behave. You learned you had to grow up. You learned that you had to learn how to make money, right? This is how you got indoctrinated. This is how you got civilized, and this is how you got conditioned. And then you become that person who's striving to make it in the world, and if you happen to be black, you're already in bad shape, right? Because the deck's stacked against you. Or if you happen to be handicapped, you're already screwed, right? Because this is the world we live in, the world in which we're all separate and everybody's being compared all the time. You find that out when you go to school, right? You go to school and you look around the classroom, right? You look at the other kids' clothes, you look at your clothes, you look at the other kids' appearance, and you look at your appearance. And as you get older and you get into the teenage years, this becomes critical, doesn't it? There's the in crowd and the out crowd, right? You know where you fit, right? You know where you fit. So now at our age, right, because the reason that you all are here is because as you get older, you start to be interested in something other than the way it's been up until now, right? That's why teenagers don't show up at these meetings, right? They're still sure they're going to win the game, right? They're still sure they're going to win the game. But you all have been to the casino. You know, you've been to the casino, you played, right? And you've lost enough times that you know that the game is set, right? You know that the house is going to win. You can't win this game. Life is going to win and you're going to lose in the end. And so now there's this possibility, the possibility that you can actually discover that who you are and who you have always been is free from this conditioning, is unconditioned. Unconditional love. Who you are and who you have always been, who is in the chair you're sitting in right now, is free and able to be happy and relaxed and enjoy life. And then you'll say, well, then you're going to have to help me out with this, right? Because that's not the experience that I'm having, right? And the reason that that's the case is because you're hypnotized. The reason that that's the case is because you have learned so thoroughly to believe that you are your physical body. You have learned so thoroughly that time is real. You have learned so thoroughly that you're the name that you were given, that you're the personality that you are. And what I mean by the personality that you are is if I were to ask any one of you, tell me about yourself, right? Well, you're going to tell me only the good things. But we both know there's the bad things too, right? And the voice in your head tortures you, right? You consider this voice in your head to be you thinking. And I've said this many, many times, but I'll always say it again and again and again. One of the things that there is to wake up and realize is that as long as you think that the voice in your head is you thinking, you're in hell. That's hell on earth, right? Because that voice tortures you. And if it's you thinking, you torture you. And if you torture you, you're thoroughly crazy, right? And that's the condition that people are in. That's why people are anxious and depressed. You know, I'm a psychologist. People come to me, right? And when they come to me, they're in dire straits, right? They're usually in dire straits because most people aren't going to spend the money they cost to come see me unless they're really in trouble. Otherwise, they'll just buy a TV. Right? But when they come to me, they're really in trouble, so they have to be honest, right? They really want help, right? And then they tell me what the voice in their head is really saying, right? About them, right? Tells me that the voice in the head is saying that you're no good, you're worthless, look at what you did, look at how you are, look in the mirror, you're ugly, look how old you're getting, look what you did to your kids, look at the addictions you have, you know, look at how you lie, right? That's what the voice is telling you all the time about you. You're being tortured by the voice. And one of the things that you learn through your exposure to being awake and aware is you discover that the voice in your head is not you. That in itself is worth the price of admission. That in itself is worth the price of admission. Just to be free from the idea that you're that crazy is worth the price of admission. And then to come to realize that the voice in your head is not only you, but it's a mind that got conditioned. And the way the mind got conditioned is it's judgmental. It judges everything, including you and everybody else. And if you understand that as you walk around in life, right? You see, this is how tricky it all is. When you're walking around in life and the voice in your head is not turned on you, it's turned out, and you're walking around, just listen to what it's saying about everybody else. It's disgusting. Isn't it? I mean, if you're going to really be honest, and the thing about it is you can afford to be honest because you're not the voice. And once you know you're not the voice, then you can be disgusted by it, what it says about you and what it says about other people. And if you just look, if you really open yourself up and look and not identify with it, but walk into a supermarket and look around, look at other people, and listen to what the voice is saying about them. She's ugly. Oh, look at how fat that one is. And the person in front of you in line, what the hell's taking them so long? They can't get the money out like I got the money out? Right? It's constant, right? That's why people are ready to fight, right? Because the voice has already got you pissed off, and all somebody has to do is challenge you, right? And you want to fight. This is insanity. Insanity. And so you can wake up and learn the truth and learn that there is a real you, a natural you, that is not the voice in your head. That is the awareness that's aware of the voice. It's the awareness that is aware of the body, aware of time, aware of the person, but it's none of that. It's none of that. It's simply being aware. In the contemplation that we just did, if you really did it the way it's meant to be did, and you really look, you will see that the awareness just is. This is beautiful. It just is. It's not trying to get anything. It's not struggling. It's not trying to go anywhere. It doesn't want anything. It's not unhappy. It's not stressed out. It just is. It's unconditional. It's allowing everything to be exactly the way it is. It's not trying to escape from anything. It's not trying to control anything. It's like the space in this room. It's a good metaphor for the awareness, right? The space in this room is not trying to decide whether it likes you, is it? It's not determining whether what's in the room should be here or not. It's not doing anything. It's allowing everything to be here just as it is, isn't it? What would it be like to be like that space, allowing everything to be just as it is at all times, with no effort? It's not, see, and when I say with no effort, I'm not talking about practicing being a certain way, right? Because the way the mind will hear this, the way the mind will hear this is saying, oh, I want to be that, right? I want to be that. And so I want to be the person but I want to be the person as the awareness. And so I'm going to try and be more accepting. I'm going to try and be more aware, right? But that's not necessary because the awareness is already aware. It doesn't try to do anything. It's already all that. And if you think that you're going to try and be that, that's the person trying to hold on to the identity of the person wanting to be the awareness. It's very tricky and very subtle. The mind is very tricky like this, right? It'll have you, see, if I ask you if you're aware, you'll say I'm aware. You think you were here first and then you were aware. But that's the cart before the horse. Awareness is here first and then you. You're in awareness, awareness is not in you. Do you understand? If you just look at this. Just look at this. If I ask you to be aware of your entire body right now, you can do that, can't you? Right? Try it. You can be aware of your entire body, right? If you can be aware of your entire body, how can your awareness be in your body? This is actually something you can see. Your body's in awareness. Awareness isn't in your body is in awareness. Everything is in your awareness. Everything is in awareness. It's actually obvious, but we have learned it to be otherwise so completely that when you're asked to look and see it, it's hard to believe, right? You've learned it otherwise so completely that when you do the contemplation and I ask you, does it have a form and does it have a shape? You're so used to going to your mind for the answer to everything that you look and see what the thought says about it and you just buy that. Instead of just looking and seeing, if you look and see, it's obvious what's there when you look and see. It's like you said the other day. It was a good question, right? You know, because people don't speak up. Everybody's afraid that you'll be seen to be the ignorant one, the stupid one, right? So you don't ask questions, right? But somebody did ask a question the other day, and it was a good question. In the contemplation, she said, well, when you were asking me, was it born? I had to answer that question based on the idea that, as far as I can tell from what I think, I don't know. Isn't that what you said? She was being completely honest. She was saying, based on what I think, I don't know whether it was born. But I didn't ask you what you thought. I asked you to look, right? Right? And so I said to her in answer to her question, what did you see when you looked? Did you see a beginning? Did you see a beginning? That's all I'm asking you to look at. Did you see a beginning? If you didn't see a beginning, then there's no beginning. If there was a beginning, you would see a beginning. You see, the truth is there to be seen. It's not something you think about. It's there to be seen. And if there's no beginning, if you can't see a beginning, and I'm talking about awareness, I'm talking about something physical that you see, right? Talking about that which sees through your eyes, talking about awareness. And if you can't see a beginning, that's because there ain't no beginning. If you can't see an end, that's because there ain't no end. All there is awareness, and awareness is only now. It's always only now. It just is. It just is. And if you can go through the process of undoing your conditioning, deconstructing the ideas you have about reality and about yourself, you can eventually get to a place when that's your natural experience all the time. I'm telling you this because I have done that and I've had the experience that I can tell you. It's not some high and mighty thing. It's ordinary and available to all of us. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying to you. It's available to all of us. And that's one of the problems that a lot of people who come to this awakening and this realization, they put on a robe, they have flowers, they have pictures of their guru, right? And then people talk to them and say, I put myself at your feet. That doesn't help. Doesn't help, because this is the most ordinary thing you could possibly ever discover. There's a tradition behind all that stuff, but it doesn't help in this day and age. What you need to hear is the direct truth, the direct, unreligious, unfaith, unphilosophy. You don't need any of that. You don't need to practice anything in reality, because what you're practicing is the recognition and the realization of what's already true. You're not going to get it, you got it. So,
if you were a road, you probably wouldn't be able to fit everybody in here.
What's that?
If you were a road, you wouldn't be able to fit everybody in here.
Well, that's right. That's another story, you know. I mean, I'm saying the exact same thing to you that Eckhart Tolle says, but if Eckhart Tolle was here tonight, you wouldn't get a ticket, couldn't be able to get a ticket. And I'm saying the exact same thing he's saying. But he's Eckhart Tolle. But I'm telling you, you know the truth that he knows and the truth that I know. All you have to do is make yourself available to it, to see it, that's all. So I hope that you continue to come to class, because I consider it my personal mission in life these days, you know, to keep talking about this and keep inviting you to slow down and pay attention to see this for yourself, because it can make the difference in your life. It can allow you to experience being satisfied and happy, and at the end of your life, feel like you've been here and you've had a life to enjoy, and it's okay to let go.